Hello, hello! Welcome back. I'm Laurel of Laurel's Plants. If this is your first time seeing me, welcome. And if you're back again for round two, I appreciate you being here and supporting my planty YouTube journey. So in the January video, we only were able to get through half of my collection. Not because it's that extremely large, but because, as you can hear, I am a bit hoarse. I've had this stinking congestion cold for quite a few months now, and it is finally starting to get better, but now it's affecting more of my voice versus the coughing. So that's fun. But last plant video, I couldn't get through the last couple sections of my place without coughing, so I had to stop, and it was already an hour long, so I figured nobody wanted to listen to me consecutively for that long anyways. We are going to split it up into two parts. This will be part two. I will get to show you some of the new additions to my collection, and I will show you the other areas of my apartment as well. Please hang in there with me. I know my voice is hoarse, and it hasn't been letting up, and I'm just not going to let that stop me from putting out content and doing something that I enjoy. And I know it's a bit annoying, but hang in there with me. We'll get through it together. So first off, one thing I wanted to state that I forgot to mention in my last video. I am not an expert. I am nowhere close to an expert. I have not gone to school. I have not specifically studied houseplants, botany, anything like that, but I have learned through my experiences and done my own research. I enjoy the research, actually. So if there is something I'm saying that is not accurate to your experience, or if you disagree with, let's have a conversation about it. Feel free to drop it in the comments. Politely, please. We're all about good vibes here, and I want to create a space that is accessible to people who are more on the novice side of houseplants and want to get into it, but don't necessarily want to be ridiculed for it either. So we're trying to make a supportive and happy, healthy community where everybody can ask their dumb questions and not feel bad about asking for help. And it's okay. It's okay to not know. So I have just learned from my experience throughout the years of failures, trial and error, plenty of them. And even now I still have some failures and things. I'm like, oh, that did not work. Let's try it again differently next time. I'm sure a lot of the other more experienced plant people have all been through that as well. And I want to make this channel more about the accessibility and taking the scariness out of some of these different varieties of houseplants and show how fun and rewarding it can be. So to start this tour, I do have quite a few plants. As you can see, a lot of them have moved. I've constantly rearranged my setups and move my plants according to their different light needs. So nothing is probably going to be in the same place as my last video, but I'll show you some of those updates and some of the new additions that I've had in my collection since the last video I made in January, which there are some pretty new exciting ones. I got to cross one of my wish list plants off of my list, so that was exciting as well. But I'll just go ahead and get started. I'm not going to go through all of these full sections again, but I will take the plants out that I have recently moved from other sections where you didn't see them or that I recently obtained. So let's get started. So this is one of my recent changes that I have done. It's not necessarily a new plant. I did cover it in my last video, but this is a Transcantia Nanook, and I really want to get this big overflowing pot to put on my balcony for this summer and just have it be in all of its beautiful purple, lavender, and green glory. So this right here, I took all of my propagations and I planted them back into one singular pot that it is now hanging by my window, and it will go out on my balcony this summer. So this plant is super fun, as I mentioned in my last video, super easy to grow, and for those people that might not view themselves as houseplant, that might not think of themselves as having a green thumb, this plant is super easy. It's very forgiving as well. If you're intimidated by houseplants, Transcantia is a good variety to get into. It's safe, it's pretty easy to find, and honestly very rewarding as well. They're fast growers, they love to trail, and then you can also get them to propagate very easily as well. So very rewarding plant. So this is a plant I didn't get to show last time. This is a plant I didn't get to show last time. It is my Monstera Addisonii. I got it for my birthday, and this used to be just a massive pot of leaves and vines, and we have been struggling. I don't know entirely. I think it's been a mixture of overwatering, pests, and just general unhappiness on this plant's part. But recently what I did was I chopped it all up, put some in different medium, so this is all in leca, with some water. So the goal for this plant, since she originally came from the store and just really was not happy in my space, I want to reset the plant, if you will. So I chopped it all back to some of only the new growth, and I'm going to allow those auxiliary nodes to reactivate, because a lot of these philodendrons, they will, once you chop them above nodes, they will actually activate an auxiliary node. This will allow for new growth from the same stems. So as you can see, there are quite a few stems here, as well as some auxiliary nodes that have already activated. You can see this right here. This one actually activated too, and these two leaves here are new growth. So I found that the leaves that do grow in my space are a little bit healthier and better adjusted to my space. So that's why I wanted to do the plant reset, and still wanted to leave some of the vines attached for that photosynthesizing, but also didn't want to throw away all of those different cuttings. So they're all in leca to continue their growth and hopefully get some healthier results from it. And who knows, I might just keep them in leca as well, because the thing is with leca is the plants are still getting water. However, you do need to fertilize because those plants still need to eat. But these plants are just so cool. If you've ever seen a mature Monstera, you are familiar with the fenestration in their leaves. And the cool thing about the Monstera Addisonii is these leaves actually already have that fenestration from a very juvenile age. So you don't have to wait, you don't have to try and figure out the best situations for your plant to fenestrate. They automatically come with it. However, I have found that she's a very finicky plant. Doesn't like to be overwatered, does not like to be underwatered, doesn't like to be moved. So we're still working it out. We are in the experiment phase at the moment. Stay tuned to see who thrives the best, whether it's the leca babies or if it's the original plant soil babies. We will get there eventually. It's just going to take some time and some work. So you remember this butchered Monstera that I showed you in last video? So that was about a month ago, and I had shown some new growth activity happening. I wouldn't qualify it completely as new growth yet. However, now they have reached the point of new growth. Here we have an entire new leaf straight from this stem here. So I think this one is technically an auxiliary node activation from here. We also have this new growth that is about to open up its new leaf, as well as this additional auxiliary node. You can see right here. There we go, right there. An additional auxiliary node, and there's also some additional babies down at the soil base. So I have about 5 points of new growth, which I think is pretty darn cool and might not be as aesthetically pleasing right now, but I'm really excited to see what they do and how they develop. Another update of a plant I previously had shown, however, I did get him on a moss pole, which I think I'm now regretting. I think he would actually do better on just a support stake. He has not taken to the pool at all, and I'd done some research, and there was some sources that said you could put him on an actual moss pole, some that said just support them, and I think I want to revise. Actually, look at him, proving me wrong. So if we look right here, he has a root going directly into the pole. Of course, he doesn't do anything until I decide to record, and then he's like, hey, I am going to cooperate. At least he's doing something. So maybe we'll keep him on here a little bit longer. I know I'm not the best at keeping my moss poles damp, but this is actually the D-shaped moss pole with the plastic on the back and the wire on the front, and then the moss in the middle, and we just keep that moist so then the plant can grow a root system within the moss pole, which he hadn't been doing until now, so thank you. Good plant, I guess. So before I forget, this is my philodendron silver sword. He actually has some new growth as well. We have this new leaf that actually just popped out of the little sheath he had here. I'm not sure where he's going yet. He seems to be trying to grow into the pole, which is not the purpose of the pole. It's not the leaves that are supposed to grow into the pole, it's the roots. So we'll see how that turns out. I might have to put something between him and the moss so he doesn't get all tangled up and confused. He's just doing his own thing, and you know, you do you, and I'll do my best to guide him in the right direction. We'll see. But some new growth, some new updates with this one. He's growing quite fast. I think the first video I had, I just had brought him home like the previous day, and I'm already getting new growth from him, so we know that he transitioned well to my new space despite being outside in short spurts in the 10-degree weather. So there's hope for this one, and I'm excited to see how he develops. So this leaf was emerging. So he was already developed, but he was emerging when I bought him. And then this is the newest leaves. I'm really excited to see this next leaf because look at that texture, that coloring. I love the blues and silvers in there. Such a unique color of a plant, and that's what really drew me to him, as I mentioned in my previous video. But I'm excited to see how he grows up and decides to finally cooperate. We'll see. Another planty update. I did mention this one in my last video as well, but this is my philodendron mayoi and has a new leaf. So this was the one I believe I'd shown in the last one, and I was talking about how curled it was. Too much light, I'm assuming, but this one I have in a bit more of a moderate lighting setup and doing better. Still has a little bit of curl, so we'll see what adjustments we have to make for that. And hasn't fully hardened off yet, but the leaf size is pretty comparable to that last one, so we know that she is fairly happy. There we go. And I absolutely love these jagged edges. And I'm hoping that the more and more this plant matures, the bigger and bigger the plant gets. And hopefully the more and more those leaves will harden off a little more flat than that curve, because it's under a pretty weak light right now. I take that back. It's under a pretty decent light, but it's far enough away from it. I thought it would fix the curling problem. But he just really does not need a lot of light, I guess. But I can't complain about that. Just so many plants need so much light, and this guy's just like, no, too much, which is fine. I'm very excited for this guy to upsize. I think I might get him on a grow pole soon, similar to my silver sword. I don't know if he will acclimate well to it, but as you can see, there's so much stem in here already, and it's curving all the way up. I do want to get him fully supported so then he can start growing versus crawling. I don't have a lot of horizontal space, but I can work with vertical space. So that is the goal here, to get him growing up and out. Now, this is another one I already talked about. I know, one of my other Monstera deliciosa, But I wanted to show you an update on the newest leaf. I don't even know if I can get him down to where you can see it. Goodness. So, right here, we have a new leaf. You can see the bright green and the dark green there. I'm really excited because this last leaf he gave me does have some fenestration, just that one spot. However, I have moved him. I've moved him a few times just to accommodate his size. So we will see if there's further fenestrations, because as we know for a mature plant, the more light they get, the more fenestrations they'll have. Or it also depends on their maturity. You'll hear people talking about, like, how do they phrase it? A first tier fenestration, second tier fenestration, but you'll see, you know, these first little bits of fenestrations where it'll just be the, you know, the holes out, but then eventually there'll be holes near closer to the veins. I'm not exactly sure what the correct vernacular is for that, but I'm just hoping this guy doesn't go backwards with his fenestration. But with what little he had, I don't see it being a big problem, and the leaf hasn't come out far enough yet for me to see or peek if there's any fenestrations on there, because you can sometimes see that there's a gap in it. But I'm really excited for this guy to get his new leaf out and upsizing, and hopefully with some beautiful new fenestrations. I'll keep you updated. I'll likely post it on my social media channels if I do get some beautiful fenestrations, because with Monstera, that's what people go for. That's why people buy them. Wish him luck. Another update. I know I've already shown you this one, but he also has a new exciting update. He has a new leaf coming in as well. So here we have, it was a really weird situation with this one. He put out this shoot and there was no leaf in there. So then he put out this shoot. No leaf in there, until finally the leaf popped out of that shoot. So like these developed before the leaf did. This is the first time I've had this guy be kind of persnickety with me about things, but I mean, if you're gonna give me leaves like this and continue to give me leaves like this, you can do whatever you want, honestly. He's just so beautiful. Just gorgeous. I love the size of this guy. He's so big. This was the second to last leaf. This is the leaf that got stuck. I'm waiting for him to kind of work through his life cycle so he can get chopped off. But we're appreciating him for what he is now, and that's okay. We'll work with it. But I'm really excited to see how big this new leaf is. As of right now, it's pretty hard to tell just because I can only see the tip here, but he does feel pretty substantial down in there. So hopefully we can upsize from this last one, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, he comes out on this side of the plant. That would be great. Thank you. Please. We're working on it. We're working through it together. It's okay. We'll get there. So this one I am very excited about. Thought he was gorgeous and could not keep the self-discipline to not purchase a new plant when I shouldn't be purchasing a new plant. But here is my philodendron white wizard. How beautiful is that? Just so pretty. I love the variegation on this. I was a little bit worried because I know with plants with white on their leaves and lighter variegation, they do tend to crisp up and die off sooner because those white areas of the plant don't photosynthesize. So this might, from my understanding of it, the darker the green of the leaves, the more they can photosynthesize from the sunlight. The more sunlight they can collect and photosynthesize. So whenever there's white, it just doesn't have any of those chemicals that help aid the plant in gathering that energy source. So It was a concern of mine at first, and I asked the ladies in the store. I actually got this from Mother Earth Gardens in St. Anthony. It's one of the shops that I frequent. I always enjoy going there because they always have a great selection of different plants. But I asked them if liquid silica was perhaps something to consider for the white variegation on the leaves. The thing with silica is it's a form of fertilizer, if you will, or it's an additive to your water for like Monstera Thai or Monstera albos that help the variegated portions of the plant pretty much stay alive longer, is my understanding of it. I haven't used it. I know it's a little bit more expensive. I just haven't taken that jump yet. As of yet, I have not had any loss of the whites on the leaves here. We do have a new leaf coming out right here. You can see this bright green. There we go. I'm really excited to see what beautiful colors come through there whenever she hardens off. But even with this mature variegated leaf, look at like that mint in there and that white with the dark green contrast. So pretty. I'm so excited about this plant, and I love philodendron lately, and just the more varieties of philodendron that I can hoard, if you will, the more and more excited I get about them. So stay tuned to see how this guy fares in my collection. So far he's acclimated quite well, had no real casualties. There's one damage a little bit on this leaf, but it was a chilly day, but we'll see. Another new addition in January to my collection is another begonia. I've been struggling with my Begonia maculata. I think it's just the regular polka dot begonia, the common one that you see most people have. That one and I have had ups and downs. So you know what I decided to do? I get another begonia. Why not, right? That's fine. This one was just so cute. I got it from Clover MKE. I was on a trip to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and had the afternoon free from the group, so I decided to go find some plant shops in 5-degree weather. So there is a little bit of damage here on the leaves from being out in the cold for a little bit. I also had to bring these plants into a volleyball tournament. Yeah. I didn't say my decisions were always the right ones, but it's a lot more I follow my heart versus my brain. It's fine. But this right here, I know the name, cannot think of the name. I will put it on the screen so you guys will have a proper identification of this one. But this is another Begonia maculata, and she has the cutest pink polka dots. Just so cute. And honestly, the way that I'm seeing this plant grown, there has been some chops here. Let's see, hide my face so it focuses. There has been some chops right there. Those chops there have actually given me hope for my larger begonia, because he has gotten really leggy, but if I can utilize those leggy pieces to create new propagations and stem cuttings, I think I'm gonna chop them up. I'm gonna do it. One of these days. I haven't mustered up the courage yet. Usually I am kind of fearless when it comes to chopping things up. Like, oh, you can propagate it this way? Say less. Anyways, this little cutie has been transitioning very well for me in my space, and strangely enough, I don't have this one in the fish tank. It is actually next to the humidifier in more of the ambient conditions in my apartment. And he's actually doing fairly well. So I haven't decided to try and change that. If he's happy, I'm happy, and he's continuing to grow for me. I just need to get a better watering schedule with these begonias, because they don't like to get dry, and I have not been great at keeping them very moist. So we're gonna set him aside because he's gonna get watered today. So many updates. Honestly, I need to apparently record a little bit more so then my plants don't grow so much in between recordings, and I just end up showing you the same plants that I showed you last time. But This is my weirdo Monstera. If you remember correctly, this is the one growing with all the wrinkles in the leaves. He's just very unique, but he did just put out his new leaf, which we got an upsize. Hooray. But once again, we have this wrinkle. And it was weird enough that his part of the side actually like fused to itself. I'm not really sure why, but he is still a very unique shaped plant that I fully appreciate and enjoy. So we're just continuing to let him do his thing. I did repot him into a larger, slightly larger pot just so then his roots have room to grow. I haven't put him on an actual moss pole yet. That is still on my to-do list, but he's fairly happy as he is now, and that's okay. Here is the middle cutting of the Monstera that I butchered. And before I had shown why I had chopped this one was because I hated the moss pole. It was just the open back, and then I put some plastic on it, and then he was growing crooked, and I didn't like it. So he was so grown into this moss pole, this cutting portion, that I just decided to stick the moss pole and the cutting into leca. And as you can see, those roots are going crazy in there. But also, we have auxiliary node activation. Ooh. Right there. You can see this guy, he has activated that auxiliary node and he is getting started on that new growth. I'm really curious to see what size of leaf he gives me from that auxiliary node, because these two were on the smaller size of the Monstera that I had because they were towards the bottom of the stem. You can see even the drastic differences between these two leaves. But I'm very curious to see the size of that new leaf from the auxiliary node. So we'll stay tuned on that one. I'll keep you updated. Let's see. Ooh, and this guy, this is my Alocasia Silver Dragon. And I think he was just starting to put up a new leaf whenever I last showed you. But now, boom. Look at him. Just beautiful. Just gorgeous. And there's no cupping. I did move him from over here to over closer to the humidifier because one thing about these, I don't know if it's just only this particular variety of Alocasia or if it's a few of them, but this one actually would get more of a cupping effect. As you can see, that little protrusion. So they actually cup as if almost trying to hold more water. And I didn't think much of that, and I think, so this was one of the leaves that I had. It was dang near perfect, just gorgeous. And then this was that next leaf, and it was in that cupping motion. So then for this leaf, I made sure to move it over towards the humidifier. And he does have a bit of bending towards that to kind of cup, but I think he is looking just fantastic. He's still hardening off, that's why he is this larger color, but look at the size of that. Considering I got this guy and he's just a little itty bitty fella, I'd say he's pretty happy. And once again, this is in that hybrid semi-hydroponics soil mix. So it's got that layer of leca at the bottom with sphagnum moss and soil at the top with a cord running through it all to bring to wick the water up to the top. And he seems to really like it. One thing I've learned about Alocasia is they don't like to get too dry, and they don't seem to mind staying moist, which most other plants, you don't want to let that happen because they will get root rot. But I haven't seen an issue yet with my Alocasias, and especially in this type of setup. So something to consider if you're struggling with Alocasias. I'm not saying it works, but I'm saying it's working for me. So it's pretty cool. Another newbie to my collection is this Pearls and Joy. It is a pothos, and while they are not extremely rare, I've been keeping my eye out because I really do like pothos, and I thought this guy with his variegation was just so cool. And I know there's a few varieties that look similar to this. I think there's the Enjoy, but this is the Pearls and Jade. There are just so many cool varieties of pothos, and so it's, for me right now, it's a sort of collect 'em all type of thing. So this is my latest one that I have gotten. I believe this was from Bachman's. Yes, Bachman's. I've only had this one for about a week. So far I've been faring very well, pest treated, got everything all situated, have him in a spot, and he hasn't been having too much trauma from the move. So wish me luck. Super cute. I'm excited to get this one to grow out and more bushy and to start some propagations, because who doesn't love propagating? I just love sharing plants, so I'm very excited to propagate this one and to share it with friends and family. I'm also excited to try and grow a propagation of this up a moss pole. That's been one of my current experiments with my pothos, is growing them up moss poles to try and get them to fenestrate. Because as you know, if you give crawling, climbing plants something to climb, they will reward you. So I have a few of those experiments that you'll actually see in my room that are currently in the beginning stages, just starting to get attached to their poles. So nothing real fantastic to show for yet, but hopefully throughout the summer and into the fall we will start to see some results there, but we will see. You guys almost let me forget my wish list plant. So this is a Philodendron biliate, or Philodendron Billy. So I have a thing for these really long oval leaves, and this is actually one that I picked up also in Milwaukee, in this super cool plant shop. Oh my goodness, if you visit Milwaukee, you need to visit River West Grown. Such a cool spot. Absolutely blew my mind. If I had a plant shop, that is what it would look like. Heck, I want my house to look like that. I will put some footage up on the screen here, but wall-to-wall plants, repurposed and recycled containers. The owner of the shop actually creates the containers himself. I believe he'd actually go to auction sales and all these secondhand places and pick up containers and then drill the holes himself. So he has some really cool potting containers. I sat and talked with him for a while, and he actually showed me another YouTube creator that I really enjoyed watching, or have since enjoyed watching since I met him. So super cool place, River West Grown. Go check it out if you're in Milwaukee. It was my happy place. Honestly, I wish it was in the Twin Cities, but it's probably a good thing it isn't, because I would have no money. Since it was a little bit chilly and I had to tote all of these plants from the plant shops to my hotel, and then at 6 a.m. then get it into a conference center for a volleyball tournament, there was some damage. So as we can see here, there was a little bit of collateral damage on one of the leaves. He got busted up here and then busted down here, and then you can see as a result that leaf is dying to that portion of it. Luckily though, I do have some new growth. Here's the newest leaf that's coming in. He hasn't started to harden off yet, but as you can see, he is very nice green, and he should be, I mean, he looks like he's en route to be about the size of at least this guy here. So I'm hoping he continues to size up, but it also came in this super cool pot. You can see that the gentleman had drilled the hole there, but then also came with this cool plate, and that's where he lives. So super cool place, highly recommend. Also got a wish list plant, my Billy. There was also a really cool one that he showed me there. It was a Philodendron, I want to say Lynette, Philodendron Campii Lynette. So cool. If you're a texture person, look up that one. I absolutely had such a hard time saying no to it, but it was just too big to lug around, and I knew I'd have to bring these plants with me wherever I went, just because I couldn't leave them in my car. Was checking out of the hotel, so I had to make some calculated decisions. So I got a little smaller guy, and very happy with my purchase though. But I definitely want to make a trip back to Milwaukee specifically for that plant shop because it is so cool. And another one, if you guys remember my chop project of my last video with the euphorbia, it was the plain green euphorbia. I have now been looking at and looking for different euphorbia, and this one right here is the variegated version. Just a really small, cute little one. This one I actually found at Kellner Greenhouses. Now that place is cool too, and I think they are a bit larger of a shop, and I think they actually have an event space as well. It was closed when I was there. I think it's not in season. I'm gonna put some video up of walking through their place as well. They had some massive plants. Very, very cool, a huge variety, and it's not even in season. So I do think they're only open on the weekends, however. So if you're going to visit Milwaukee, River West Grown, Kellner Greenhouses, and unfortunately the last shop that I did visit was closing down. Like when I visited was one of their last days they were open. So unfortunately the other one is no longer. Those other two, highly recommend to go visit. You'll find some really cool varieties. And I know I didn't have to go all the way to Milwaukee to find this one. When I travel, not out of country obviously, but when I travel I want to pick up souvenirs all the time. Why not have a living one? So I also got this little pot there as well, super cute. Got this guy to house him until he grows out of it, and then I can use it for something else. This is one of the succulents I recently got. I don't know too much about him, but I am working to get more succulents to be able to put into my pots to my balcony for the summer. This one right here, I actually recently just chopped these guys, but this is a mother of millions. He's got all those babies on the tips of his leaves. Very similar to the mother of thousands. I still have some propagations of the mother of millions, however, not quite as many. Still a super cool plant. They do get a lot taller than my variety of mother of thousands. Still really enjoy them. This one here, I don't exactly know what it is yet. It is just labeled as a terrarium plant. But once again, you guys know I am a sucker for textures. Very cool there. Haven't figured out exactly what I'm gonna do with him yet. He was just in the clearance section at one of my local plant shops that I recently visited. Propagations here, and those are my friend's plants I'm not going to cover. Here is another box of propagations. I am a propagating fiend. It's a curse I have. So here is another succulent that I picked up, but just another really cool one that I decided to pick up that had some fantastic colors and I wanted to add to my succulent collection. Just a plain green one, but I love the shape and colors that he did have as well. A lot of other items in here are pending / recovering / figuring out what they want to do. Oh, another variety of jade that I wanted to pick up so I could have a few different colors in my collection. Not sure if you can see the colors real well. You can see he is also flowering right there, but super cool. They're all still very new. I haven't done too much with them. Also in the corner here in this jar, it has a couple of corms, alocasia corms that I am propagating. Nothing happening with those yet, but I will update you on those at a later date. Another plant that I got recently is this bear paw succulent. So cute and furry and just super fleshy, I guess is the only word I have for it. A super long name. I'm not too familiar with the scientific name of it, but they are a fairly common succulent, but I just thought they were very cute, and like I mentioned, they were running a sale, so discounted plants are practically free, right? And then here we have this cutie. I don't have the exact name for him. He was also labeled as a terrarium plant, but I loved the texture. I believe it is a type of peperomia. He's got these beautiful red undersides and more of the oval leaves versus the circular ones that we've seen in my past peperoma, but excited to see what he does. I might get him into a larger pot, or I might try my hand at terrariums. I haven't decided yet. So next is my bathroom setup. Here we have my succulent shelf. So this light up here is actually one from Home Depot, and it is very strong. I appreciate how strong it is. However, not many other of my plants can do well up here because it's a very strong light. But I will take you through all of these up here. There are quite a few duplicates of the same variety because those are the ones that do best with this extremely high light. So up here in the full sunshine in my bathroom, I have one of my original jade plants. Jolene is her name. You can see some damage that she's had from her being put out in bright sunlight, bright direct sunlight when she was not quite accustomed to it yet. But this plant I actually got from one of my old coworkers. I believe there is the other jade that I've shown in my previous video that is the larger one. This is still more of those plants that were split off from that main parent plant. So still the same plant, just a little smaller. Here is one of my string of raindrops. I love these. I find them so much easier than the string of pearls and the string of turtles. So honestly, they are my favorite string of anything at the moment. As you can see, it has some beautiful trailing action going on, and he comes all the way down and likes to hang off the shelf. Here's another one. I actually thrifted this glass from Goodwill, and while yes, he does not have drainage, I still like being able to see his roots down there, if you can see that. He's also doing very well, and he's very close to that grow light, so he is doing what he wants to do, and we're letting him do it. Here's another one. I also thrifted this from Goodwill, just a super cool ceramic piece. All of these plants were originally one, and I was having a hit or miss time with the parent plant that I originally got from, I think it was Home Depot. I separated out, and this is the resulting growth. I think I have actually a couple more spread throughout the apartment, but here are the main ones that are doing very well. Also, I don't water them too much when I do water, so I water more frequently, if that makes sense. Just because I know if I just leave them for a long time, I really leave them for a long time. So I'd rather water them more often but less water versus leaving them and then drowning them. Here we have another jade. So this one is a propagation from here. I think there are a couple of varieties in here. As you can see, this one has some purplish and pink in the leaves. I don't have the exact name for that, but it is all from that parent plant. And also, on your jade plants, if you see this buildup, don't worry, it is not pest. This is actually the plant getting rid of its excess salt mineral deposits. Never a concern. It wipes off fairly easily. It's not going to harm the plant. It's just the plant doing its thing. And then here is another one of my, I have the name for this. I'm not going to butcher it for you. I'll put the name on the screen right about there. But this one is actually the parent plant that started off as just a single little 2-inch pot, and he has been going crazy. I did just give him a haircut, so he is looking a little worse for wear at the moment because he hasn't fully recovered from that chop, but he also likes super bright sunshine. I do believe the common name for this is sunshine succulent, and he likes to drop his leaves all the time. But the nice thing is you can then propagate just from these leaves or from the stem that you cut. Very easy to propagate. I'm hoping with this light here that he actually starts to give me the variety of color that I've researched and found that they can do. However, I'm almost wondering if it's not a different variety of the plant that does that. We'll see. He's definitely liking the bright light. I've found that these guys do well with between medium and bright, so they're very easy to take care of. A great house plant if you don't necessarily If you're not very comfortable with plants and you're a bit more of an underwater, these guys are an excellent option for you. So now we are in my room. I have this tall shelf here, this shelf, a shelf along my window, as well as one along my bed, but majority of the plants are over here. So since the last video, there have been a few plants that have moved, migrated into here with some of the different light strengths, but I will show you some of the new updates that I have, but I won't necessarily show you the ones that don't have much to show. So this succulent arrangement, this is actually one that I showed you, that I had shown you in the previous video. However, he has had some updates. I found this really cool gold speckled pot at Goodwill, and I decided, since he wanted to sort of trail and bush outwards, I wanted to give him that opportunity, but not before chopping him. So I chopped off a bunch of growth and also found a few mealybugs on him. I pest treated him, so you will actually see some residue on there from the insecticidal soap I used to pest treat, but some of his growth is starting to attach itself to the soil that has wanted to branch out. So that's super cool. I'm really excited to put this one on my balcony this summer and just see how full and lush he gets in this nice pot. I can just see him becoming a gorgeous statement piece, if you will. So the top cuttings I actually have in one of my propagation boxes. I want them to get a good root system before I put them in here, just because I don't water this real often, but I wanted the root systems to develop before placing those cuttings in, so I had a better chance of keeping them all. This is one of the most recent purchases from Home Depot, again with the succulent deal. So this one is actually, I'm not going to try and butcher the name, and I'll likely put it on the screen as well. This one is just so cool. It has that layer. This is not spider webs on there. This is just how the plant grows. So don't be fooled. This one's super cool because it grows by pushing out more and more pups on the sides. So I wanted to get this one started. Hopefully he will be out on my balcony this summer and also be quite a statement piece. Now some of these other back here are the ones I'm fostering for my friend, so I won't cover those. But this guy, this is that top cutting of my Monstera that I had shown in my previous video. Not too much to show, except right here, he's got some new growth. So I'm super excited to see what size this leaf is, because this was my top cutting of my Monstera that I had chopped. And is he going to pop open this new leaf comparable to these sizes and with fenestrations, or is he going to kind of revert back to that more juvenile stage? You know, given the trauma of being chopped, I could see him reverting back to a smaller size and working up. However, I am open to the possibility of if he wants to be bigger and more fenestrated. I'm okay with that. You got it, buddy. You do you. And I mean, the leaf already right now does look to be comparable to these sizes if you're looking at the development all the way down, but we will see. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but he has a lot of great root growth down here in this leca. So we're going to continue feeding him and encouraging him and hoping that he does well, because he's my favorite. And it's just a really cool statement piece. I didn't think he would grow any new growth anytime soon. I would say it's probably been about 2 months since I chopped him, but we will see. He has pleasantly surprised me so far, and I'm very excited to see how far he'll go. So down here I have some propagation boxes. This one here is a mother of thousands. I know they're more of a succulent, but I found they really like humid environment. And I actually just got rid of my original bottom shelf, whole bottom shelf of mother of thousands. I just sold them to one person. I'm like, you know what, this fee, you take them all. Just take them, because I knew I had these coming. So I made a lady very happy one day. Or now she might be cursing my name, because now she's going to have a lot of that plant as soon as they start producing babies. But I figured, you know what you're doing. You're buying a plant. That is absolutely fine. I offered them all to her. She took them. So I am not responsible for how many plants you end up with as a result. So it's fine. This one here, I had a string of turtles that I recently chopped up because we've been having disagreements in his watering frequency and his lighting. And he had some larger growth, larger shells that he gave me, but they were just so yellow. They lost all of their cool marking. So I wanted to reset him. With this, actually, I lied. This is more of the Mother of Thousands. With this, I actually decided to chop him up and propagate him into all of this. So I'm not going to tip him because there is water sitting at the bottom of this to increase the humidity in the environment. If you cut the vine and then you swirl them around and train them along the edges of the pot, they actually start putting out new growth, which I think I only did this last week, and I have some new growth popping up already of these little guys. So I'm hoping to get some bright new growth, but I just really need to figure out what lighting they do best with, because everything I've given them so far I think is just too bright or too direct. We'll get there eventually. I still have plenty of plant to be able to have different propagations and to experiment with it, so I'm not too worried about it. It'll just take a while before I have a full complete plant again. Now this here is my large propagation box. I have quite the variety within this box. So right here I have some of my Monstera Addisonii stem cuttings. So they did not have a leaf with it, they just had a stem with a node. And then I was able to activate that auxiliary node. I have all of my cuttings in here in sphagnum moss. So these are all growing quite well. Here is one of those propagations that I trimmed from the other one I just mentioned, hoping that they're going to get some good root systems before I then pot them back with the parent pot. This is just a pothos cutting, just a pothos wet stick propagation, so it didn't have a leaf on it, just had a node, and this is the newest leaf that has popped up as a result of being in the prop box. Now, majority of my Transcantia I did already put in that pot, but there were a few that were just a little bit behind, which is fine. That's okay. We all develop at our own rate. But this is from a stem cutting that had a singular leaf, but you can see there that new little growth is popping up and should be ready hopefully soon to be placed into the parent pot with the rest of the cuttings. A newer experiment that I'm trying, I have never propped Phytonias before, so this is my white Phytonia plant that I just took a top cutting of and am trying to propagate and get to root in sphagnum moss before propping it back with the parent plant, or perhaps giving it away to friends and family. And I have a few of those in there just as more of an experimental method. I'm not sure how successful it will be in this exact environment. Might have to change it, but that's the wonderful thing about plants, is you're able to experiment and try different things and figure out what works best for your plants. And I just have a few more of those string of turtles in here. You can see where I've just train them along the edges of the pot. It is just in dirt. This one does have drainage holes, so it is collecting a lot more water. I'm not sure how well this guy will do with that amount of water, but like I said, we are trying multiple different avenues for different plants to see what'll work the best. One cool thing I have in here is this orchid. So this one, my mother had a few of them that she had been gifted, whether it was Mother's Day or her birthday, I don't remember, but she had a few that were sitting in a windowsill facing south, and I think they just got a bit dried out. My mom is a very busy woman. She's, helping run a farm. She's got a lot going on, so sometimes those needier plants, or those plants that like to get ignored too well. So she gave them to me, and she gave me 2 of them to see if I could try and save them. One did not make it. It did not have enough of a viable root system left to save. However, this one did. So I didn't know where to start, but figured moss is usually the best guess I have. You can see here through the glass, it has quite a strong and bright green root coming through, and it's actually got that root coming in as well. Most of the original leaves have died off, but all of this is new leaves. And I know I will have to move him from this eventually, but I'm just enjoying watching him grow. He seems to be fairly content, as long as I keep pests out of this box. I'd say he's been in here for probably about 5-6 months. And perhaps in the summer I might move him to a little more permanent setup. However, I haven't figured out what that's going to look like yet. So he's currently just living in there and doing pretty well. So if it's not broken, we're not going to fix it. So up here we have another of the same one that's in the bathroom, that Home Depot light. However, he is a bit farther away from everything, so I can have stuff on this shelf and that shelf without worrying about burning things. But we have a bit of a variety on this shelf. So these right here are just some of those pothos propagation. Another one here. I believe they are golden pothos, so you can see that nice little golden splash on their leaves here. Kind of low variegation, but we'll see how they develop. And this one I had shown in my previous video. This is that sunrise succulent. She's doing really well in this condition, so I've decided to keep her here. So this guy right here is a propagation of my silver squill that I had shown in my last video. I decided to separate out some of the bulbs, and he's not doing well, so we're not going to take a look at him. He's still in recovery. Now these plants I got from, I believe my mother got them from my aunt from Oregon, but they are very ready growers. They continue to grow and split. As you can see right there, he just is going a little bit crazy. And from the original plant, like 5 plants I got, like stalks, I now have these 3, not the aloe, but the one behind him. And they're super easy. They grew super quickly, and you just chop them right here, chop them, and then place them in soil again. This here is my aloe. I have always struggled with aloe. They are just not a plant that fits with my care style. I believe I originally got this from Aldi. I think I've had them for about a year. So we've got all of this new growth here in the middle, and he seems to really enjoy this bright light. So far, I think the watering has been pretty decent. I mean, these aren't the fullest they could be, but they're also not lacking in thickness, if you will. So on this second shelf, this guy is an Aloe aristata. So he's also a variety of aloe. However, I find he is more along the lines of a succulent. So this one I actually got from a hanging pot from one of my friends. It was fall 2 years ago, and she had this beautiful hanging pot, but she didn't want to bring it inside, so she gave it to me, and I split up the different plants. So this was one of the plants there. Last summer I had this huge. I had it in a pot of probably about this big, and he was just massive, and I brought him inside, and all of a sudden he just started to deteriorate. Eventually I found scale on him, so we did our treatments. I chopped him up and pretty much reduced him to only this one singular stem, replanted him, and he has been thriving ever since. He is just in this little clear plastic glass, but I'm just getting ready for that balcony season when I can put him in a larger pot and he can upsize. But I wanted to keep him pretty manageable for now, because you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. On the shelf I have already covered. They were in the other section in my succulent shelf, but this guy here is my Thanksgiving cactus. So him and I have also had our ups and downs. He was a gift from a friend that gave me the Marble Queen pothos, and it was just a single stem. I think it was maybe like 3 or 4 leaves, and I think he was that way for probably about a year. Yeah. So oh, this is my Christmas cactus. My bad, Christmas cactus. But now that I've done a little bit more research and then I have chopped off some of the leaves and repropagated them, we have quite a bit new growth. As you can see right here, these new little shoots coming off. They come in really nicely as a nice, almost burgundy tips for that new growth. I don't know how you can see it best, but they are super cute. Thanksgiving and Christmas cacti, and they get their names because they bloom around that time. This guy did not bloom for me this year, but we've been in recovery, so we are just working on growing up and then we can work on flowers. So here I have my pothos on a moss pole, and they haven't really been on there long enough to be able to see any substantial results, and I believe this is some sort of damage. I'm not sure what exactly type of damage that is. If you do know, leave it in the comments. I'm very fascinated by that pattern. But this is just one of the pothos that reverted to just all plain green for me, and so I decided to use these as experiments. He doesn't have a lot of really substantial growth yet, but like I said, we're in the beginning stages. And another one here. This one's actually sizing up with his leaves. As you can see, he was this size, and then I put him on the pole and he gave me these 3 leaves. This one was damaged somehow. I'm not quite sure what happened. But then this last leaf, he's not quite fully hardened, but he is beginning to size up again. So I am having hope for these, that they will get large and hopefully fenestrate for me one day. So I do have this other shelf here, but it is super dark and it is dark outside, so I'm just going to bring the plants over to you so we can view them and I can talk about them. So this here is my big ZZ plant. Now, I don't know if he's exactly happy because I got him for free on Facebook Marketplace, and the lady that gave him to me delivered him to me naked root. One thing you'll know if you work a lot with plants is that the more mature a plant is, the more upset they get if you disturb their roots. So it has been probably about 8 months since I got this plant, and he just has not been extremely happy for me. He hasn't put out any new growth, and there are some signs of yellowing on some of his older leaves, but we're just keeping tabs on him. I do have him in front of the window so he does get sunshine. I know these are known for their low light tendencies. However, just within his state of potential shock and trying to rehabilitate him, I do have him against the sunshine in front of the window, and he doesn't seem to hate it, but he still hasn't been doing much, so we will see. He's so beautiful, but I really would like him to fill out and get nice and big and get some new growth in there, but he's just sort of stagnant at the moment. We'll see. This is my fern. So last summer I had 2 hanging baskets of ferns that I thought were so cute, and then winter came along, and now I'm like, I have these hanging baskets, and every time you water them, they drip. And then they continue to drip forever. So what do? I decided to then put them both in this large pot and ditch the hanging basket, and he's kind of gone crazy. One thing I didn't know about ferns is they don't like to go dry for a long time, and unfortunately this is one of the ones that I have been neglecting a little bit more than most. So you'll see that reflected in some of his yellowing and just really leggy growth. I did just give him a haircut, so you'll see some of these that I just chopped half back, but I have to do a little bit more research to see how to best prepare him for the summer. He will go back out on the balcony in this large pot, and hopefully we will see some more success with him. And now that I know a bit more about him, and I will be learning more about him, we can get a very nice lush fern. I just think they're so cool. I don't know exactly what type of fern this is. I would assume maybe like a Boston fern, but I don't have a good estimate to tell you. It's just a fern I've had in my bedroom. Yeah, it's fern. This is one of my Dieffenbachia propagations. I apologize for the harsh light. I'm just trying to get you the best lighting possible while it's dark outside, but this is one of the Dieffenbachia propagations just in leca. I've never tried to grow them in leca, so I decided to try it with this, and I'm actually getting some new growth here, and then this leaf is new since I put him in leca. Hasn't been doing terribly. So we are on a journey together of discovery to see what he likes best. This plant was just plagued by spider mites and all sorts of pests. He really wasn't happy, so that's why I chopped him, and we are seeing how best he can acclimate to a different setup, and see if maybe we want to stay in here permanently with him, or if we want to pot him back with the other Dieffenbachia plants that I do have. We'll see. Now over by my bed, underneath a small grow light. It's a pretty weak grow light, but this is my snake plant. It's a Sansevieria. I'll put the name on the screen, but I don't know the exact variety this is, just the plain green snake plant. But he has actually grown quite a bit. I think I got him and he was only about this tall. As you know, they are very hardy plants. You don't need to water them a whole lot, and you also don't need to give them a lot of sunlight. But I do have him under a weak grow light. Just he can do his thing, and he's actually been very happy there and giving me lots of new shiny growth. Just one of the basics that you have to have in your collection. I have seen a lot of different varieties of Sansevieria or snake plants. There's some really cool ones with different variegation as well as different shapes. So that might be something I get into in the future. However, for now, this is the only one I have. So this is my Thanksgiving cacti. So the other one I showed you was the Christmas cacti with the more rounded leaves, and this one is a bit more harsh in their shape. They have a bit more of a pokey, spiny appearance, if you will. These ones will actually bloom around Thanksgiving. However, this year, I think he might have been a little confused and he gave me a bloom in January. That's okay. I'm confused all the time too, so it's fine. This guy's been doing fairly well. I got him from that friend that gave me the jade plants when she was clearing out her collection. Wasn't quite sure what he liked. I repotted him in October, I think, and he's actually been expanding a lot more and putting out new babies. For a while there, I think he was just a little root bound and just unhappy with the amount of space he had, so we upgraded him and he got happier, and then I think that's why he bloomed late. So that is the majority of my plants. It's not all of them. It's not all the ones I'm fostering as well, but as you can tell, my voice is a little bit shot. I tried to get through all of it for you. I was trying to find a time where I was able to keep my voice long enough, where it was bright outside long enough, and unfortunately it just wasn't happening. So I decided to do it for you after work one day, and unfortunately it means my voice is a little bit more tired and my energy kind of wanes a little bit. I wanted to get that other half of that tour out to everyone. Then 6 months from now I can go through and make updates showing, hey, this is what this plant looks like now, and so that's why I wanted to push through and get all of those plants documented, because as you can tell, even from the last video until now, how much growth there has been. So this will be my February part 2 of my plant tour. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching and being part of the houseplant community. If you would like to see more and support my channel, feel free to like, subscribe, and maybe share it with your grandma. I know I will be. So thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you supporting my channel and coming along with me on my plant tour. Thank you.